outer sleeve, and
Uh-huh.
the grease had just turned into rusty powder.
I wonder if that's like a reaction of aluminum oxide from the casing of the,
Maybe, yeah. I mean, between the heat or salt water, and
lots of things.
I'm not sure if that new grease ever got inside that.
Yeah. Yeah,
That part I was able to fix, but
this is a little bit more.
this is, I just can't get it.
Yeah.
I'll probably have to take the motor off. So
Oh my goodness.
we're really, it's a question of how much more time and money do you put into a 25+ year, 26 or 7 year motor, but it's a good one. If you work it a little bit.
Okay,
Are we ready, do you think?
I think so.
We live in person, we
We're
have sound,
live right now.
and we have sound. Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you, Joseph. It is 6:30 PM on the July 1st, 2026. This is the meeting of the Nahant Select Board and a joint meeting with the Housing Authority. And I hereby call this meeting to order. So we have our announcements where Town Hall will be closed starting this Thursday, July 2nd at 2 PM, and will reopen on Monday, July 6th, in observance of the July 4th holiday. We still have no dogs on beaches from May 1st through September 30th each year, except on Doggy Beach. Resident parking stickers are still available for purchase at nahant.org. Stickers purchased July 1st to December 31st are $20 each. We have metal, white goods, and TV recycling the last Saturday of each month through October 31st from 8 AM to noon behind the DPW garage. Certain fees do apply. Visit nahant.org for more information. And the compost area is open on Wednesdays and Saturdays from 9 to 3, beginning April 4th. Visit nahant.org for a full list of accepted material. Resident sticker is required. Our Market by the Sea is up and running. We have these on Saturdays. We have July 18th, August 15th, and September 12th at 10 AM at Flash Road Park. Visit the market page at nahant.org for more information. And July 3rd and July 4th event update. Please visit nahant.org for a full list of events in July. Yeah. And I want to say on the side here that I hear that some volunteers have stepped up and that we have enough to run our field events and our Horribles Parade. Is that correct? Yes,
that's correct.
So we're on schedule and back to the tradition that of July 4th activities in the hut. That's a great thing. So we have a joint vote to appoint a new member to the Housing Authority. Do we have a majority? Do we have, yeah, okay, I see enough there.
First, yeah.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah. Quorum, that's the word I was looking for. So I move the select board open to the joint meeting with the Nahant Housing Authority. Do I hear a second?
seconded.
Roll call vote.
Patty Karasai.
Pat Riley, aye.
And Rob Thibault, aye. I move the select board and housing authority vote to nominate, oh, wait a minute, hold on. And let's back up again. Yes, the housing authority, you want to vote on that also as far as opening this meeting?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we should have Susan Bonner, is that correct? Who are each member of the Nahant Housing Authority, please state your name and aye or in favor or not as far as opening the meeting.
Susan Edwards, aye.
Paul Smith in favor.
And who else do we have? Anyone else?
Jane.
Jane,
Jane's mic is off.
looks that way.
Jane.
Jane Collins.
There we go. Aye, so that gives us a quorum. Anyone else on the housing authority there? No. Okay. So, let's see. Authority, I move the Select Board and Housing Authority vote to nominate Dave Wilson as a member of the Housing Authority. Do I have a second?
You have a second?
And we will do a roll call vote for both committees. Select Board first.
Patty Carsey.
Pat O'Reilly, aye.
And Rob Tibble, aye. And then the Housing Authority, roll call vote.
Susan
Paul
Edwards,
Smith, aye.
aye.
Sorry.
Jane Collins, aye.
And I think Paul Smith said aye also. Did I hear that?
Yes, Rob, yep.
Excellent, thank you. And now I will move the Select Board and Housing Authority vote to appoint Dave Wilson as a member of the Housing Authority effective July 1st, 2026, with a term expiring April 24th, 2027. Do I have a second?
You have a second?
And roll call vote for the Board of Select Board.
Patty Carsey.
Pat O'Reilly, aye.
Rob Tibble, aye. And now the Housing Authority.
Susan Edwards, aye.
Paul Smith, aye.
Where'd you go, Jane?
Ms. Collins?
Jane Collins, aye.
Thank you. Think that about does it.
It's not as.
So I move the Select Board close the joint meeting with the Housing Authority. Do I have a second?
You have a second?
Roll call vote.
Patty Carsey.
Pat O'Reilly, aye.
Rob Tibble, aye. And the Housing Authority.
Susan Edwards, aye.
Paul
Jane
Smith,
Collins.
aye.
Jane Collins, aye.
Okay, the meeting is closed. Thank you very much. And we have Dave Wilson as an additional member of the Housing Authority.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh. And I move the Select Board vote to approve the Select Board meeting minutes from May 20th, 26 and June 3rd, 2026. Do I have a second?
You have a second?
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Patty Carsey.
Pat O'Reilly, aye.
And Rob Tibble, aye. And that brings us to a discussion of the kids' surf camp.
Yeah, so Patty asked that we add this to the agenda. She received an email from is it his first name
Grant.
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 Asked.
talked.
Yeah, and so my understanding is that this surf camp is offered at Long Beach during the summer. There's a number of Nahant kids that attend it. And the reason why he was reaching out to us was to ask if bacteria levels happen to be high at Long Beach, if they would be able to utilize one of the other beaches in Nahant. And so I wanted to bring it for discussion here. Grant, I wrote to him and invited him to come. Apparently he's getting married this week.
Yes, I wrote to him as well. I was out of office.
Yeah,
And
so like, congratulations to him. But then I reached out to Emily, who is on here as well.
Hello.
Who helps with the camp. And then I also reached out to John Coulon because I remember talking to John a while back and him reciting some state laws regarding summer camps and that they have to be approved by the health inspector. So John is also on here. So I want John first to just talk about how he's approved the camp to take place at Long Beach. And then what he would look for additional information in order to have this at another location.
So we should hear from John.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
And then,
John.
and then Emily.
Good evening, folks. The camp, the surf camp started on Long Beach 2 days ago. They operated on Long Beach last summer as well. I've received their application, obviously, for this summer and approved them to operate for 2026. And it is I don't want to say it's frequent, but it does happen that the water sampling at Long Beach comes back in exceedance. Therefore, DCR has to post the beach to have nobody in the water until a water sample has demonstrated that the indicator organisms have returned below the exceedance levels. And it is reasonable for a business that cannot exist while the beach is closed to seek alternate location. And they're not going outside the town, staying within the town, looking for the legal ability, the board approved ability to operate elsewhere in town. And we discussed their options, and they're looking at Short Beach as the primary alternate. Of course, that would be pending the state recorded testing level to be below the exceedance level, as Short Beach often is. And I discussed the matter this morning with Emily, representing the surf camp, as well as the police chief Furlong. And I would require, as I mentioned to Allison, that the camp submit an addendum to their application identifying just what we're discussing tonight, that they are seeking a town-approved alternate location for times when DCR is forced to close Long Beach for operation, and to identify Short Beach as their primary alternate, and that permission would be granted pending their notification as soon as possible of the town administrator's office and the police chief's office. Any questions?
No, that seems very straightforward to me.
Yeah, I'm all set, John. Thank you.
Emily, did you want to add anything?
No, I feel like he said it really well. Thank you for having me. I'm the director of the kids camp this year. So yeah, I'm just here on behalf of Grant, and it's been really great so far. So thank you for letting us do this on the beach. It's been great.
So my only question is in terms of parking, like I know from Grant's email that the kids will be dropped off. What about your vehicles and equipment? What's the plan for that?
Yeah, so we have two like staff vehicles. We have a big box truck and then like a large van, like a 15 passenger van that holds the wetsuits and things. So it really wouldn't be any more than those two vehicles and then maybe two staff vehicles. Because yeah, all the kids get dropped off. Although a lot of the families have been staying and hanging out at the beach, but if we were at a different beach, I think it would be just the staff vehicles.
Okay.
And this all takes place midweek.
Yes, Monday through Friday.
Monday
Okay,
through
got it.
Friday, yeah,
Yeah,
10
no
a.m.
problem.
to 2 p.m.
And how many participants are there in this camp? Can we add, on average, on a given day?
I would say anywhere from like maybe 20 to 25 kids.
Okay, and it starts, you said, around 10 o'clock a.m.?
Till
Yep,
2.
10 a.m. to 2
Till 2.
p.m.
So they're having lunch there also?
Mm-hmm.
And are they bringing their own lunches?
Yep, they bring their own lunch and then we carry all the trash out with us.
Okay, all right.
So Chief Furlong's on here. Can we just ask him if there's any concern in terms of parking?
Yeah, thank you. I did speak with John Coulon earlier. My only concern was the parking, obviously, as that is a hot button issue in town. I've seen the large vehicle, Emily, in the Long Beach. Does that stay overnight, or is that come in and out every day?
Yeah, it comes in and out every day. Grant has a parking space nearby in Lynn,
Yep.
like maybe a mile and a half away.
Okay. Yeah, if you could email me, you can get my email address right on our website, nahantpolice.org. License plates of the vehicles that are going to be parked there for the duration. I understand that most of the vehicles are going to drop off, but I have absolutely no issue with obviously allowing your vehicles to be parked in our lowlands parking lot, but I just would like to get the license plates of the vehicles that are going to be there so we can notify the officers on scene or that are working or issue a pass of sorts to you guys.
Great. I will get those for you tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, great. Like I said, I spoke to John Coulon. He spoke very highly of you guys and how your organization is run. So I'm all for supporting this. I just need a little bit of information. The only concern was parking, and Monday through Friday should not be an issue during those times. So good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to circle back for the public, this is not an everyday thing for Nahant. This is a backup
Yes.
process for Nahant.
Yeah.
So it might be a very occasional thing when Long Beach has been closed that Nahant would become involved in this. That's correct.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, good.
Now, what if Short Beach is your primary alternate? What if that tests high bacteria as well? Are you just looking to use another beach, or that would be it?
That's a great question. I think Grant would probably know better than me if there's any other beaches in Nahant that are surfable, or if John has any suggestions for beaches that normally somehow avoid that bacteria. But yeah, if there's any other beaches that seem like they would work well, we would be open to it. But I think this is like the primary option right now.
Okay.
Yeah, Tudor's not surfable.
Yeah, Tudor. That the only one I could think of is Tudor, and that's you're not really going to catch a surf over there.
It can be, but you probably don't want to be out in the kind of weather that when it becomes surfable. One
Yeah.
last question, maybe for Dan. Do we need a hold harmless agreement of any kind here?
Boy, well, I wouldn't think so, but we certainly can draft one just to be safe.
Yeah, I'll go with your advice on that.
I mean, it's a recreational use. We're not charging them for the property, so the rec use statute comes into play, which is very protective of cities and towns. So I wouldn't think there was a need for one, but we can always just have one if you want. But I don't see a need. And we're not charging them to use the property, right?
Right.
Yeah, so
Okay, yeah,
I wouldn't bother with it.
we're probably fine. Okay, let's go with fine.
All right.
That it? I think we're in process. Do you need a vote or anything like that? Or we good?
No, it was just, more of just a public discussion, so people understood it, what was happening, and everyone's on the same page. So yeah, Emily, if you can just get that information to Chief, that'd be great.
Okay, sounds
Yes,
good.
I
Have
will
fun.
send that to you tomorrow.
Emily.
Yeah, I
Thank
might
you so
stop in
much.
sometime. I want to learn how to surf.
Yeah, come stop by, gate 12.
Maybe they'll give us a discount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're a little too old
Yeah,
to partake of the
okay.
camp.
Well, there's another reason back in a senior discount. How's that?
We have drop-in
Uh,
lessons too. You guys should come by.
Okay.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you,
Thank you
Emily.
very much. Have a good night, everybody.
Congratulations to Grant.
Yes, thank you. I will tell him. Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you,
John.
John and Chief Erling. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time.
I take it you do not need me any further.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
You're welcome to stay, John.
No, but we don't need you for anything else if you want to jump off.
We could jump in on the parking policy discussion.
Thanks, John.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, that brings us to ongoing business where we're going to have a discussion of the parking policy.
Yeah, so the board charged me with establishing a working group, and that also came out of, it was a recommendation of town meeting as well. So I did put a group together. I emailed them all last week, and we had our first meeting yesterday. So the group consists of Chief Furlong, Fire Chief Antrim, Lieutenant Schultz, and DPW Superintendent Zach Taylor, and then we have a resident representative in Steve Viviano, and then myself. So we met, when was that, on Monday, Chief, I think? And I basically said the desire was, we don't have a written parking policy, right? So originally, the board had asked me to draft something, which I drafted and revised several times. And we still, kind of were tossing it back and forth and had questions. One of the things that came up was visitor or guest parking. And so I started talking about all of that with this group. And as we were talking, I think we just need a little bit more direction from the board on exactly what we want this group to accomplish. I can go through some of the discussion that we had yesterday and some of the items that came up and some of the thoughts, but I'm not sure if that's the way that the board wants to go. So I wrote some notes, and then Chief can chime in too, because he's still here. But the one thing, and I think we've mentioned this before at select board meetings, that there's a problem with signage throughout town. So some of the signs are very old. Some of the signs are conflicting. Some of the signs say parking permit, parking by permit only, which is not relevant because we have a parking sticker that's only relevant for beach parking lots. And then there's some that say resident parking only. So Tony had undergone a sign audit several years ago. I'm not sure how many. Zach brought it to the meeting, and he says he has it electronically as well. So it's basically every sign that's in town, what it is and on what street it is. So we were kind of thinking of taking a look on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis first at signage and what signage needed to be replaced. And maybe as we were doing that, kind of like what the parking patterns on those streets are, getting to Pat's point, if we have or allow visitor parking, like what really is the availability of parking on each of these streets? So we started with the signage thing, and Zach thought that starting with like the Tri-Mountain Bass Point Road area first would be beneficial. So he's going to start to take a look at that.
And what specifically would he be looking at? As far as, is he looking at the existing signs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so Chief, do you want to chime in? I think on Tri-Mountain Road, it says there's only parking on one side, and is it resident only parking? But I think it says parking by permit only, so that would have to change.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly, excuse me, what is the signage over there. The confusion is parking on one side, but they park on one side anyways. And I apologize. I didn't get a chance to drive over there the other day.
Yeah.
But the issue is I don't think it says resident only. So people try to take advantage of that and park on Tri Mountain and go fishing over on the cliffs there. But
Yeah.
The signage throughout town is the biggest concern right now. Like we have to figure out, we have places that say parking by permit only. We don't have a permit. The only permit that we really have is to go to the beaches. So that permit that people think, oh, I have this parking permit issued through the town, I can park wherever I want. That's not the case. So we really have to just clean up the signage. That's the biggest concern right now. Some of it was brought up. Steve Viviano, as you all know, he's a Revere firefighter. Revere did a study. So there is, I don't know if it's a state law, but I forget exactly what it is. But if they measure the street and they have parking on one side or two sides, and a fire engine can't get down, there's no parking either on one side or no side. So that was brought up, and that was a great point to be brought up, because we have very narrow streets where we might be able to have parking on one side, two sides, or no parking at all. So I think we should curtail on what Revere has brought to their table.
Yeah, so that was thank you. That was another item that was brought up. Then we talked a little bit about in terms of, visitor parking and how visitor passes would be issued. Would they be issued, if somebody purchased a beach parking sticker, do you get a visitor pass? Or do you have to go online and pay for one separately? How many passes does each person get? So I said, I know the visitor and guest parking thing is probably going to take a little bit longer to talk through. But the police representatives on the committee brought up a point that now it's done on a case-by-case basis where residents call up and say, I have visitors coming, at this location. The police are advising them to put, something in their dash, and they're advising them where to park on the road as well. Just so they're not blocking, traffic on narrow streets and such. So there's somewhat of a desire to keep it on a case-by-case basis so that the police department is able to weigh in. But obviously that's something to continue to be discussed. There was also discussion about, do we want to eliminate, the sticker for beach parking altogether and go with a resident parking sticker that will make enforcement easier? So that was something that was briefly talked about. Something that the chief threw on the table in this discussion was possibly having hiring civilians part-time, particularly during the summer months, to do parking enforcement. And then again, we talked about the sign inventory. So this one meeting today brought up a big discussion about parking in general. And I guess I concluded the meeting by just telling everyone, okay, I was going to talk about it at the board meeting tonight. I want to get a little bit more direction on exactly what deliverables, we're looking for. And then I would reconvene the group and we would start to work at it. So any thoughts?
Well, the big thing in my mind is if we're talking about visitor or guest parking, is the capacity of the streets to accommodate resident parking and visitors, and especially considering 4th of July weekends, big holidays. What's the capacity of our on-street parking and off-street parking, and getting a good sense of an inventory of that capacity before I think just to inform our decision making. Because I wouldn't have any objection to giving everybody guest passes, but if we don't have the parking capacity to handle that, then it's just going to be a fiasco, around major holidays. So just having an understanding of that capacity, even if we stick with the existing practice of calling the police department and seeing if there's any guest parking available, that at least would inform where can you park and where can't you park, and then you could easily reference that and say, go ahead, please. There's there. So I think that would be, I know there's hundreds, I believe 100 streets in Nahant, and of course some of those are one house streets and some of those are like Nahant roads. So there's a lot of variability, but just starting with that inventory and getting through it. And I'd be happy to take a chunk of those and drive around. And I don't know if we want to settle on a methodology, but understanding how many on-street parking spaces there are capacity-wise.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of capacity. And if the street doesn't have capacity, are there overflow lots that can be used for holidays? I know the 4th of July is a very popular time for people to come to Nahant and have barbecues. And I know Castle Road, for example, is cars. I don't know if that poses an issue, Chief. And if it does, then, could the school be used? Could, the church lot be used for people to park?
Yeah,
I think
so
that's a huge issue.
I agree. To your point, Patty, the Castle Road, for example, if people call us, like, for example, I know where you live. If you called us and said, hey, can I have people park in lowlands? We'll give you permission. Absolutely. But we would just ask that you put something in their dashboard. This vehicle is visiting your address. And if there's an issue with that vehicle, we know to contact you. So that's why we ask people to call us. We also know how narrow the streets are. So like if somebody on a very narrow street says, hey, I'm having a party, outstanding. If it's anywhere near like the school lot, lowlands, we'll direct them to park there. St. Thomas is technically private property. We can't give permission to park on private property, but if the homeowner reaches out to whoever is in charge of that property and gets permission, awesome. Yes, that's an alternative.
Great. And then, yeah, I agree. We absolutely need to get the signage in order. It is extremely confusing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's been a priority for me right from the beginning of this whole conversation, is that the parking by permit signs need to come down. It seems like a pretty easy move as far as swapping in the new ones. And I think that we could do that relatively quickly. Now, that said, obviously there will probably be further analysis in that neighborhood as to whether or not we want to even leave the resident parking sign. In which case we take that down, or we do whatever the recommendation is as far as that further analysis. But in the meantime, just get rid of the permit signs up front. Because that's quick and easy.
Yeah, and I think it's a safe assumption that, it's possibly a safe assumption that some thought was put into putting up a sign
It puts us in the ballpark.
It puts us in the ballpark. So swapping out signs.
And it takes out the confusion in that particular regard, and it puts us in the ballpark of what could happen going forward through the further analysis. As far as the guest passes are concerned, I think we have to be careful of that one for all the reasons mentioned here. There are even roads that don't appear to have a problem, and I'll cite my own Fox Hill Road. There are areas where you can't park on either side. There are areas where it looks like you can park on either side, but in many instances over the years, I've been able to look down the street and say, you're not going to get a fire truck or an ambulance through that space because we have vehicles on both sides. Everybody's attending their cookouts. And that's something we need to watch out for. The other thing, obviously, as far as parking is concerned, guest parking, is that, and this has been kind of a hot point for me since I was pushing baby carriages, is that we seem to use sidewalks an awful lot for parking in this town. And I think that needs to be frustrated immediately for the very reason that the people are trying to use those sidewalks. And you watch what happens when they do that, is that the people are now walking in the street. So I think we need to get that message across too. And this is something that the emphasis is now, as far as this is July and August is where our biggest challenges probably are, Chief, maybe into September a little bit. So the guest parking, I think you've got a good solution as far as what you're recommending. People call you, you give permission, you put notes on the windows or whatever your directive is there. And I think that's a good start also. And that is something we need to get in place, all agreed on and in place now. Could change in 3 months, but we've got to have an agreement on what we're going to do now, because your officers need direction.
Yep. And when they do call, we always tell them, don't park on the sidewalk, don't block a driveway, don't block a hydrant. So I understand that parking on the sidewalk has been a concern. It's been addressed. I've sent several emails to all the officers to strictly enforce. That has, from what I understand, it has come down a little bit, the issues, but not that many people are zoomed in on this meeting, but I will always say, if somebody comes across a vehicle parked on the sidewalk or illegally, call the police station and we'll send somebody out. We're not overwhelmed with calls that we can't send somebody out for a parking complaint.
Let me qualify, Chief, that when I talk about this, I'm talking historically. I haven't noticed an issue now, but it's the season. This is when these things happen.
Yep, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did say after tonight's meeting, I hadn't shown the members of the committee the draft policy. the last version of it that I shared with the board. So I was gonna share it with them just to take a look and see what they thought. And maybe at the next meeting, we can finalize that, given that we're gonna stick to contacting the police department for now in regards to visitor parking and we can continue to look
Yeah,
at it.
So
The only other thing that I think we need to add to it are professionals. And I think this was brought up really in terms of the transferability issue of parking passes or the beach.
Mhm.
So, for example, the gentleman that brought up the nanny. Or someone that, you know, is elderly and might need home health care services and where they would park. Contractors working on someone's home. I think we need to work on, you know, that piece as well. They're not guests per se, but they're professionals working.
Yep, I understand what you're saying. I Lieutenant Schultz spoke of that at the meeting. In I can speak historically for the past 20 years. People have called and said we have contractors working at our house. Okay, we'll direct them where to park. I have hospice coming in for my husband, wife, whomever. Oftentimes it's all care or VNA or whatever that's clearly displayed, and we're obviously going to work with people that let us know, but it's that rogue car that we come across that's parked in a random spot that comes out of another city or town, and we have no knowledge of it. That's our issue. I can't stress enough to have the people call the police station and notify us, because we will send an email, an internal email within the police department to everybody to say, hey, this car is going to be here on and off, or this family has out of town family coming and visiting, and contractors were, it's exactly those scenarios that you just touched on. We've dealt with this and we continue to deal with this, but the biggest issue is people calling us and just letting us know. We have no problem communicating throughout the ranks that whatever house is going to have exterior vehicles parked in the area. That's not the issue at all. I don't think.
Well, thank you.
So I see the conversation we're having now as being different than the one about giving the nanny a beach sticker. These are day-to-day critical issues for living in Nahant as far as what you're describing, Chief. And then we have access to the beach. That's another one. So do we need to talk about that a little bit more now, or is it?
I mean, we might as well include it in the overall policy. I mean, it was brought up at town meeting. I'm sure it wasn't just that. And I think the issue really was encompassed in transferability. I'm not a big proponent of transferring anything. I think everyone should have their own parking sticker. But I guess the issue is that the individual is not a resident of the house.
Yeah, so we didn't even start to discuss the transferability.
Okay. So.
But we can.
Do we want to just focus on what we've got for now? Is that how do we feel about that?
Well, I mean, I think of it as a prioritization. So what's the most important thing to do first, and then when do we want to hear back? Like, when do we have another joint? You know,
Absolutely right.
yeah,
I agree. I just don't want it to fall off the table.
yeah.
Definitely on the table, but yeah, we get the low hanging fruit and work our way up.
Okay.
And potentially
Yeah.
iterate. And I mean, we will have. I mean, I think that's the next. When do we want to hear back from the committee with the next recommendations and or just an inventory of, hey, we've got, this X number of spaces in town and they're all being used, or we don't have a parking problem on these areas. What's a reasonable expectation that we can do that discovery process in X amount of weeks or months, or I don't want to have this dragged out.
No,
drop off the table.
No, I don't see that happening now. At least I hope it does not. I can't. No, it's not going to happen. Let me put it that way. But we do want to get the hot buttons first, and the easy items. And, you've got the easy item, swapping out the signs for resident only, the important items, how to handle contractors, home health aides, that sort of thing. We've got that, right? I mean, you can put something together now to address those issues based on what you have, get it up on the website, let everybody see this is how you handle it. And then we move on as far as things such as the beach sticker, but the bottom line is that you're also getting feedback from this committee on what is considered to be the more important
Yes.
areas.
Yeah.
And I think way up high on that is identifying choke points around town where people are parking and we can't get equipment in. I know that there have been, and you know better than I do, the area down on around Sherman Ave and Maple Ave. and
We
stuff
spoke
like that.
about
We
those
can't even
rooms,
get a
yeah.
trash truck in there sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's
car.
or a car. I walk through there all the time, and it's very congested, and I've actually participated in fighting a fire down there, and it was interesting from a space standpoint. So those areas we really need to focus on too. Over on Bass Point, some of the roads there, we've got to focus on that.
Yep.
And then we can expand out to areas that are kind of flowing on their own.
Yeah, so I think that was a thought when we started talking about the signs yesterday. I think that's why Zach brought up like over by the Bass Point area to start there, because all of those, and then continuing down, Castle, those are the problem areas that came to everybody's mind, the forefront of everyone's mind. So
Okay.
I think that was the reason why we kind of started there. So
Okay.
Okay.
You got what you need for now.
I think so.
Okay.
Is that enough? We'll reconvene.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. And then we have a public safety building discussion.
Yeah, so I thought Chief Antrim was gonna join, but I guess I don't see him on. So Chief Antrim, Chief Furlong and I had a follow-up meeting with Context Architecture, who did the public safety feasibility study. And we just wanted to get, a status update on where the final report is. And so when we spoke to them, they're finalizing the report based on all the information that they have shown, to this group twice now. However, they were kind of asking of us what kind of conclusion should be drawn from the study or included as part of this study. Are we leaning towards a combined public safety building, or are we leaning more towards separate fire and police stations? I said that there's pros and cons for both, and that was evident through this study. Whether it's the locations, the costs, what have you. So I merely said I would bring it to the board for discussion. The chiefs, have weighed into, and maybe chief wants to weigh in on his thoughts. But again, like I said, I think there's pros and cons of both. And I think Context is asking if we want to have a definitive conclusion as part of this report, because then you're able to use the report and, gain support for whatever that conclusion is in order to move ahead with, whatever building it is. I don't know if we're there. So Chief, did you want to add anything?
Sure. First of all, I'm going to just say that either department is going to be an improvement. Rob, you can speak on behalf of the fire department. I haven't been in too far into that building, but I know that it's in dire straits of being replaced, as is the police department. That said, I'm going to open this up again. We don't have a ton of people on this, but anybody from the public, from this board, wants to come and tour at least the police station, I will give them a tour and see how dismal of the conditions that we are working with. It's an old schoolhouse that's over 100 years old. It's time. It's beyond time. Having said that, I'm leaning towards I don't know this for certain, but I feel like that we would get more funding for a public safety building, a combined building, as opposed to two separate buildings. And again, that's just my thought process. I feel like that's we'd be better off with that. Having said that, uh, am I against a freestanding police department? Absolutely not. Like I just said, anything is going to be an improvement in trying to get the department accredited, certified, what have you. We simply can't do it with um, the current building that we have, and that's why is that important is because with the police reform of 2020 that came into um, law in 21, we were tasked with becoming at least certified. And with the building that we have, I just don't see it. Like there are certain standards and accreditation standards that we need to meet that just don't. I'm going off on a rant, but my recommendation would be a combined building only because I think we would get more funding for that. That's about all I have to say.
That's a sound argument, in my
Mhm.
opinion. I agree 100% that we are more likely to get funding for a combined building. I also, just by looking at the cost estimates as far as separate buildings versus the combined building, that's pretty substantial as
Yeah,
far
that's
as to
the
say.
selling point. Sure.
Well,
So, the financial aspect, yeah, is a no-brainer. Obviously, there's significant savings in having one combined building. The location, I'm not thrilled about at all. Um, there's only so many places for children to play, and taking away some of the playground. And I really would like to look at the plans, it was like in that tiny, tiny font on the screen to get a better idea of just how much would be taken away. I'm not thrilled with it.
yeah, I think the location has caused me some concern about taking away school playground area, but also thinking probably long after we're not here, but the school's going to need to be rebuilt at some point in the long, future. So where do you put the school while the kids are in session? So to me, that is going to happen in 30, 40, 50 years. And that's probably the location for a new school, not in our potentially lifetimes. I won't jinx anyone, but I think that would be one of the prime spots for keeping the school in that location. But, would it be possible to shift over the proposal to be really right up against abutting the DPW building? Would it be possible to go on the other side of that? I know that's the floodplain issue. So that's, to me, I don't feel like my enthusiasm for that location and a combined building is not there. I know there's been just concern from the superintendent. Um, that said, I agree that a combined building is more likely to get funding. Maybe should just be packaged. But we're a long ways off from having those discussions, I think, with state and federal and looking for grants and help with the financing on that building either way. So I would want to package, if we went with two buildings, I think we should try to package them together and seek funding accordingly either way. I don't feel like for this purpose of asking them to just put a final recommendation, I'm not sure. I think it would be helpful, but I just don't feel like we're there.
Yeah, I would agree in terms of final recommendation. I don't think we're there. And I know they were looking at other areas of town, and I'd like to look at that more closely. And I know you mentioned that cell tower, but I'm curious, if that cell tower were to be moved, could that be a location?
I don't want to speak on behalf of the fire department, but we had a study several years ago, and I don't think, as far as their apparatus, that location
Would work.
would work because of the bend in the road and
It's a
the
very difficult turn to make on
Yes.
Highland onto
Yeah.
Nahant. Yeah, very difficult.
And I don't want to speak for Chief Antrim because he's not on here, but I can, kind of paraphrase what he said. I think his idea, he seems to be leaning more towards two separate buildings because he kind of similar with the location issue, but just having a combined building, the footprint would be so large that it would be intimidating for any neighborhood and just likely not gain public support for it. So I think that's his concern, if I'm paraphrasing him correctly.
Well, the quote that's attributed to me in the Lynn Daily item on the article that covers this a few weeks back was actually from the chief, if anyone was interested in going back and reading that article. But I didn't ask for them to correct it, but because it made me sound a lot smarter.
You were
but
quoted out for something.
I was I was quoted with the chief's quote. So, but yeah, that was essentially his feedback. And I think that's, it's point taken. I think it's just another point where maybe we just leave the recommendations where they are. And we can, I think the next phase was essentially working with an architect. Anyway, I don't want to yeah, that's another discussion altogether when we want to start that process. And is there state and federal funding to help with any of this?
My understanding is right now, no.
Mm.
Could there be in the future?
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of talk about it.
Right.
Right.
There has been in the past, there's been a lot of support for cities and towns trying to upgrade their facilities, and unfortunately, not at this time, as from what I've been seeing anyway.
Yeah. I guess, my concern is I do want to keep forward motion on this because
I don't want to.
after going through this,
Right.
And obviously seeing the facilities, it's way overdue. Like the facilities we're operating in, I can't even believe that we're operating out of, to be honest. So we have to keep moving forward.
Oh, I agree. The chief Furlong actually took me on a tour of the police department a few years ago, and I was in shock. Let's just put it that way. It's a very mild way of putting it. Yeah.
So when the architects all came through, they were looking at each other. Is that up to code? Is this up to code? Nothing is up to code. Nothing.
And we're gonna get in
Whatever
trouble.
that means.
I could see us getting in trouble as far as some person that you're detaining in that facility gets hurt or something along those lines. I think we're exposed.
I agree, and I'm gonna go back to police reform, in the standards that they put on these police departments without even thinking who's gonna pay for it.
Right.
We're stuck with it.
Well, yeah.
We have to do something.
The bottom line is they're trying to leverage us in the correct direction. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think we've got an uphill battle, because there is a quiet peacefulness, I guess, in saying that, well, you know what, tomorrow's going to be fine. Yeah, today was fine, yesterday was fine, tomorrow will be fine, based on what we have. And unfortunately, that's how we get in trouble. Truly is. This is basic maintenance, and unfortunately, in this case, the maintenance is very, very large. And I got in trouble last time I said this. I'm going to say it again. This town is very good at kicking the can down the road, and we hopefully will be able to dig our heels in and keep fighting this forward.
Yep. So that's all my focus is. I'm okay with this study not having a definitive conclusion like the architects are suggesting. I don't think that we're there yet either. I think we can put, everything into this great report that is done, but I am not going to sit quietly. We're going to continue to talk about this.
Excellent. Yep. Just keep poking at it. Got it. That's all we can do. Is the context, as the experts on this subject, are they in a position to make a concrete recommendation?
They said that they don't prefer
They don't
to do
want to
that.
go there. Okay, all right, never mind.
Nope. So
Yeah, They did highlight the benefits of a combined building, I think, so
Yeah.
that was a financial benefit.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, so this report's gonna have all that information, yeah.
Okay. All right,
Okay,
all right, well, we'll move forward as best we can for now.
all right. Thanks, chief.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You might as well stay on. We're talking about, we're going into.
Tell us, July events update, road closures and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, so 4th of July is on Saturday. That came fast.
Summer's over.
Summer's over. I thought that was the beginning of summer. So Kristen did put together, as mentioned in the opening comments, she put together, on the website. If you go to nahant.org, right at the top, there's a banner you can click on with all of the activities for July 3rd and July 4th. We did have volunteers step up to do, the Horribles parade and the races kind of at, the last minute. Much to Kristen's effort, I wish it was a little bit more organized. It always seems like we come, right up until the deadline, and we're threatening to almost have it canceled because we have no one step forward and then somebody steps forward. I'd like to see a little bit more continuity, but again, it's all volunteers, so I know how difficult that is. But again, the Horribles Parade is on July 3rd from 5 to 7. And so that information's on the website. July 4th in the morning, starting at 7:30, there's the Tortoise and Hare Road Race that starts like right by the DPW and fire department. There's a 1 mile and 3 mile race. I've done it historically in the past. It's a great race. And then right after that is the July 4th field races that are right on the field behind there. So that starts at 9 o'clock. And then from 5 to 10 is the party at the wharf. We have a Bam Mojo Slim playing again this year, starting at 6 p.m. There's going to be an ice cream truck as well. And then the fireworks will be at about 9 o'clock from Bailey's Hill. So also on the website are some maps with road closures. It's the same as last year. I don't think there's any changes. So if you want to, go on there and take a look, but there will be one-way traffic beginning, in the Bailey's Hill area starting at 7, because that's where, the fireworks are going to be set up. So there's a map on there that's showing, the one-way traffic flow. And then down by Tudor Beach, if you look at the map, there's certain roads that will be closed to all vehicle traffic starting at 7 p.m. on the 4th, because we have individuals, walking those streets. I think we're having DPW trucks placed as at the end in order to, block anyone driving through. The wharf will be closed starting at noon time on Saturday, just so we can get ready. And then Willow Road from Summer to Wharf will close at 5 p.m. So just to make everybody aware that, the 4th, particularly that it's on a Saturday, I expect it to be, busy. I know the chief has all of his staff on hand. And yeah, just check the webpage for information. There's also reserved handicap parking at the corner of Flash and Spring Road, as there has been in prior years. So if there's anyone concerned about that, that information's on there. I want everybody to enjoy the holiday. I think Nahant does a really great job of celebrating year over year. It takes a lot of work, and it's a lot of work by Chief Furlong, Chief Antrim, and DPW Superintendent Zach Taylor. I commend them for all the effort. They started planning this a month ago. So I'm just along for the ride.
Thank you.
Thank you for.
It's very appreciated.
Yes.
Will there be a signboard at the wharf a few days in advance advising of the closure at noon?
You read my mind, Rob. So typically we've had a sign at the wharf a week in advance. However, we get those from NARAC, which is a division of Homeland Security. As you can imagine, with FIFA and everything going on, signboards are a hot commodity. So tomorrow we're getting 3 additional signboards. They'll be dispersed through town. So yes, we will have
Outstanding. That's
sign.
great. Yeah, no, that's very helpful, Chief. It really, really is. We want to get that word out as soon as we can.
Yep.
So the tent went up today down at the wharf. The tent placement is a little bit different. And the reason for that is because we're keeping it up for next weekend when we're having our Tall Ships Party on July 10th. And so we have a number of musicians coming for the Tall Ships Party, and the placement of the tent was deemed to be more preferable for that party. So we decided to set up the tent for our one band that we're having on July 4th. I've notified the July 4th band, they're fine with it. They just cared if there was power, and I assured them that there was a power source down there. So I think there was some rumblings about where the tent was placed today, and that's the reason for it. So the tent's staying up. We've had we're having porta potties delivered. Those are gonna stay in place until next week too for our other party. They will, the company's going to come and clean them out. But just to make everybody aware in town that we're really planning for 2 weeks of events, really. So we're planning for this July 4th, and then turning around and planning for the July 10th holiday with all of those same structures. And I know Chief and his staff is working for the July 10th event as well. So that July 10th is 3 to 9. I mean, people are going to start setting up at 2. It's a day-long event as well. So we're preparing for that.
I believe there's been a strong effort to get the word out and create parking for people to come in from out of town to also enjoy that evening.
Yeah, so my understanding for July 10th that we've received permission from the church to utilize the parking lot there. The school parking lot will be available. And then we're also, we're still getting in place some drivers for the COA van to kind of do a loop between those parking lots and bring people down to the wharf for the July 10th party. Not July 4th.
Did we hear from the country club also on that?
Oh, and the country club as well. They've offered their parking lot for the July 10th holiday. So
good locations for parking, just right down the hill. You're right on Tudor Beach. I think that's going to be
yeah, we're encouraging everyone to come. It'll be a good day. So July 4th first, and then July 10th. So that's all I wanted to say about the 4th of July events. Did you have anything else to add, Chief?
No, we're just monitoring the weather. It's Saturday is questionable, Saturday evening, which is crossing our fingers that selfishly we're hoping for rain, but I'm kidding. Hopefully the rain holds off.
If there's rain, so I don't think we want that. I think we want them to go off.
Yeah. Hopefully everything holds off and we let people come and people go and everyone enjoys themselves.
outstanding.
Okay. So one other thing, since it's my town administrator's report.
Absolutely.
This is the first time that we're meeting since the special election last week to talk about it. I've obviously spoken individually to you. I've spoken to town staff. I personally am very disappointed that the override failed. And I just wanted to say that publicly. A lot of work was put into planning for it. As you know, I presented a budget originally at the beginning of February. And so since February, we've been, maneuvering and digging into the details of the budget. I had requests, for over $2 million. It could have been a $2 million override that I cut back. I worked closely with the finance committee, on everything. They were supportive of the asks. So just some of the information that came out at the end, I guess, from concerned citizens disappointed me. Nobody came and asked me questions directly. I was more than willing to give information or, dig into details. And a lot of work went into it. It wasn't just a fire override, and I've stated that I tried to get the Lynn item to print articles on it. While that was a big portion of it, it did include a full-time school employee. So the school is very disappointed about that. Included moving some below market salaries for longtime employees here up to market rates. So those employees are disappointed. I can tell you that the morale of town staff is down now. And it's making it really, really difficult at this moment. So I just wanted to make that known. I think it's a little more difficult for us to come in and provide services with our happy face as we always have, because just the fact that it failed just I think it makes town staff feel underappreciated. I just want to talk about going forward. This upcoming year is going to be a busy one. I'll be negotiating 3 collective bargaining contracts with the DPW, fire, and police. I expect there to be large, significant asks as part of that. We did just extend our trash contract for a year with Waste Management, but I'll be going through an RFP process in the fall for a multi-year trash contract that I expect, based on what our neighbors have experienced, to come in at a much higher rate than what we have now. There's just a lot of additional expense pressures that we're going to be experiencing over the next year. So I don't think, an override is going away. I'm keeping it on the table. It's either that or we're going to start experiencing significant cuts. So I do think the next budget process is going to be difficult. And I just wanted to preface that before we even get started. Usually we start the budget process in December. The discussion's already starting, so.
I too am very disappointed. I really empathize. I think you did an amazing job. So I don't want you to take it personally. I know it's hard not to. And I know the town is going to really struggle. And I'm very concerned. And I think the budget process needs to start much earlier than December this year coming up. Because as you mentioned, there are many agreements that are going to be very challenging to negotiate. And my question in regards to the collective bargaining agreements, do they go into effect July?
It'll be July 1st of next year.
Next year.
Yep. Yeah, so we're currently FY 27 started today. Today's July.
Oh, I know.
Fiscal year. Tony had negotiated 1-year extensions on all of those contracts, knowing that he was leaving and somebody new was coming in. So that was agreed upon by both parties. So that covers the current fiscal year, and they'll be expiring June 30th of next year.
Yeah, so one unfortunate thing about elections is we don't know why everyone voted the way they did. In the few exceptions where we have public comments about why people voted the way they did, we don't really know, why the result is the way it is. Was it just people feeling the pinch of paying feeling their expenses were too high and they couldn't afford more money? Did they really think that the town didn't need all these things that were being proposed? So I think it's now our job to understand where the town is at, because I think we all understood, at least I understood, that it was going to be closer than it was at town meeting, and I didn't expect 24 votes, but we really do need to have a sense of what the town is going to be willing to absorb in the future in terms of tax increases and what their priorities be, because we obviously fell short, very very few votes short, but still short, and it wasn't, even if we'd won, it wouldn't have been the kind of margin that I would have been comfortable with, although it would have been a more favorable result. So we've got a lot of work to do. Have to be, I think, realistic about what we think will pass next year, if anything. So it seems like there was some willingness, at least of some large group were just feeling uncertain about the future and wanted more answers, whether that was their main reason or if that was just what they were saying. But I think we should acknowledge that and try to address some of those concerns and see where we want to be next year.
Well, I'll just sum it up and say that I don't see how the funding that we're willing to assign for our services can't impact the level of services that we provide. If we're not going to fund, then we're going to lose our current level of services. We're going to have to cut. There's going to have to be changes, reconfigurations as far as how we keep the lights on in the building, so to speak. So I think that people should, I know in my own mind, I expect the level of services will change. I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year, but eventually we're going to have to start changing the level of services and people have to understand that.
How do we educate? I keep.
So that's my question. I felt like I spoke at, every select board meeting. I attended multiple finance committee meetings. I had, online Zoom sessions for interested parties. The chief did as well. I reached out to the Lynn item. I try to do regular articles on there. I included an information page on the website. I sent out a mailer reminding people to come and vote. I spoke at the community breakfast about, I don't know. I really am at a loss of how else to educate individuals.
I think your effort was astounding.
Completely agree.
Yeah, and quite honestly, what amazed me is that I still saw and heard comments about, well, we haven't heard enough about what we're doing, and I can only think to myself that how can we not? I mean, there was so much information out there, so many opportunities to understand everything that we were trying to do. And yet there are still people saying, well, I don't have enough information.
Well, it's also some people may really just not have known where to get information, but others, quite frankly, were probably just saying that because they didn't want to raise their taxes. So
I can't say no to that.
and I don't disrespect, I think an honest discussion about not, I think that's a perfectly valid for people who are on fixed income that,
It's hard.
we have to acknowledge that that was a real tax increase that would have affected some people in a very negative way.
Mhm.
But, others probably could have afforded it and just chose.
I can say no, so I will say no.
Yes. So I think everyone had, their own reasoning going into the voting booth and, ultimately, we have to respect the decision, and I think, I don't want to go back in history too far, but I think we've had 2 operational overrides in the past 20 years that I'm aware of, and one passed and one didn't.
Mhm.
It's a hard thing to get done. So now we're 1 for 3.
But does
Step
it,
to the plate again.
of course, we're not giving up, but does it go back to educating what happens if the town does not get additional funds in terms of?
Yeah, so I think that, the place that we were in with this override, the fact that it didn't pass, I'm not having to cut positions, right? This wasn't that. It was to add, or bolster services that the town's already offering. However, because of all these stressors that I've spoken about, I can tell you that 2.5% increase is not going to cut it for FY 28. And so there will be cuts. And I think at that point, that's something that I'll be vocalizing. I didn't have to do it this past time because there weren't necessarily cuts. It was a level services type budget if we didn't pass the override. But I don't see that happening for FY 28.
Yeah, I think there's a more fundamental Massachusetts problem in that the state needs to come up with the revenue sources that are tied to inflation are the income tax and sales tax, and without more state support, municipalities are stuck with a 2.5% increase year after year. That's well below inflation and is not keeping up.
No, it's a math exercise, really. 2.5 was created in the 80s. It's the year 2026. It should be repealed. Really should. It makes no logical sense whatsoever.
I would say the opposite. I think, I think we can live with 2.5, Prop 2.5, but I think we just need to see a steady funding from the state and more linked to the income and sales tax. Because that does follow inflation, and I think that funding has not been keeping up.
No, it hasn't. But the states are also struggling because they're getting less money from the feds.
I think that's a
It's
argument.
such a
Do we support our schools and police and fire at the local level, or do we, there's many worthy things at the state level to fund, but it's just a matter of prioritization.
Yeah.
So on that note,
That's
that's all I had for my
That's all
town
you got.
administrator update.
Then that will bring us to our citizens' comment portion of our meeting. If anyone has something they would like to share with us, please raise your hand and we'll give you the opportunity. Three, two, one. Okay, then I guess we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
He beat me to me. He beat me to it. Second.
All in favor?
Pat Riley, aye.
Patty Carroll's eye.
Rob Tittle, aye. Good night, everyone. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you,
us.
everyone.
Yeah, good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the support, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts.